burgers in Windsor are very rare.
Not rare enough for the man living on Overlook Drive. John Chopolos was a self-made man here in Windsor, Connecticut, running his multi-million-dollar real estate business out of his modest home. That is until the morning of December 20th, 2013. Police arrived here after getting an urgent 911 call. I can't get my father to pick him up for an activity. He is in bed and someone shot him in the head.
Is he still alive?
I don't think so. I walked into the bedroom and there's blood all over the bathroom wall.
I don't know if he shot himself. I thought that was contact about the news.
And that being brought out, my bad, and saying it's murder. I lost it. I fell to the floor and crying hysterically.
Wait. My name is Scott McGregor. In 2013, I was a detective for the police department. Mr. Chopolos was found dead in the house. Once again, you go back to whoever did this, took the time to retrieve those casings. And whoever did this, took the time to retrieve those casings. And not leave evidence behind. That kind of tells us that the person planning this out knew to cover their steps, which ultimately makes an investigation harder.
So she killed her son?
Sergeant Chris McKee also gets the call to head
We're not talking about the kid, we're talking about the grandfather,
right? A quiet resident who wasn't exactly well known around town. How did he fit into the community in terms of how he had accumulated his wealth? Was he kind of like a little local success story?
I gotta say, he ran in his circles, in his business circle. He wasn't known in Windsor, and I was very active in community roles in the department, and like I said, I wasn't aware of it until this investigation.
McKee walks into a bloody scene. You're looking around the room. Do you remember what you noticed?
A little further down from Mr. Chopolos' bedroom was a glass door, or a door with glass panes that led into the backyard. The officer and I observed that there was broken glass.
A break-in?
Well, it looked like it was meant to be a break-in, but looking at it, it was very clear that the glass had been punched from the wrong side, and it was very suspicious. First thing I thought is this crime scene is staged.
The recently widowed victim was known to keep cash in his house, but after the shots were fired, the gunman left. The money still there. Was there any sense that it had been ransacked or robbed?
There had been large sums of money in the house and other valuables, and honestly, nothing appeared touched. It told me that this was personal.
The devastated family speaks out on local news, hoping to catch a killer.
My father, while he lived a small life, he was a very large man, and to know him, you could never forget him.
Anyone could have done this.
This person killed at least once that we know of.
Where'd the kid go?
This person's
Why all of a sudden they just stopped talking about him?
Chances are it will happen again.
Sure.
When we start any murder investigation, we want to do a timeline. We want to start trying to find out who was with John.
My father, we were trying to, my mother passed November 21st. My father for 2 weeks was staying with one of us, or you was staying at my mother's house.
Another curious thing about the home, it doesn't exactly look like a millionaire lives there. One of the victim's daughters explains why.
My father has an elaborate estate. The man's worth at least $40 to $50 million. I mean, it's huge. You wouldn't know it going into the house. That's the only reason why I'm bringing up my father's financial wealth. Is because looking at this house, you would not know that he has a 25,000 square foot house in New Hampshire.
You find out that this is a prominent businessman, a wealthy businessman. What does that say to you initially about this?
Kind of starts to focus investigators in on, was this financially motivated? Did this gentleman had a lot of money, a lot of properties? Did someone have something to gain financially from his business?
The videos of the Windsor police interviewing various family members have never been broadcast before.
Nathan and I went fishing. We went out of Rhode Island.
Okay.
So we went on a contract that left at 6 in the morning, got back into port at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
We learned that John, the day before, the last person to see him was his grandson, Nathan Carter. We learned that through talking to Nathan, talking to family.
My name is Sheila. My last name is spelled Carman.
We have to treat everyone as a possible suspect. Family, associates, people who worked in the office, neighbors, anything, anyone could have done this.
Investigators asked Nathan about employees at Chocolose's company, and the grandson mentions one who, he says, complains about being overworked and underpaid.
Just I'm underpaid, also the stress loan. I have 101 things to do. I have to get all these papers, and I got to do this, the other thing. So he would bitch and run about that.
The bookkeeper is, in fact, stealing from the Chocolose's company.
So obviously he's someone we want to talk to.
Nathan begins outlining his final evening with his grandfather to investigators. It begins with dinner. He was going to come here and eat that night with me.
That was the plan, and he wanted me to come too. And, I said, well, you guys go do it. If I only knew what I knew, now.
After their meal, Nathan and his grandfather return to the Windsor home. At some point, John Chocolose gets a phone call and puts it on speaker.
I think that there's a real possibility that the person who called him may have been a mistress. I don't want to say to my grandfather who did that. I think there's a real possibility.
It wasn't one of your aunts.
No, it was not one of my aunts. It was not one of my aunts known in the family. Very young, like 23. And he then told that female voice to just wait. Hold on a second. He showed me to the door.
Nathan Carman is correct. There is a young woman Chocolose has been talking to.
And she became a suspect. Did you go anywhere else that night or anything like that? Or did you just get home?
No, I didn't sleep because I had to be here. I was supposed to be able to meet my mom at 3 o'clock. When I fall asleep, I have difficulty waking up. So I tried to stay awake. I did run out to Stop and Shop, and I got some ice cream for myself. I picked up the future play batteries because I would have started them, and then I had enough. Then I stayed until I went back out to the
Investigators don't have much to go on, with the exception of some security camera footage, which they use to retrace the last days of John Chocolose's life. Like this casino video, where the 87-year-old is seen with a much younger woman. Will it provide investigators with answers? May not know who killed John Chocolose yet, but they are beginning to understand who did not.
Boy?
Yeah.
Yeah, they went fishing together
I
out
know,
there.
but did they say how close they were?
What do you mean, did they
Did
say?
they, were they?
Yeah, she went fishing with him all
I
the
know, but did they say that he was unhealthily close to his mother or anything like that?
unhealthy.
Did they have problems?
No,
Okay.
I hadn't heard anything. She didn't even like eating fish.
woman
But
Nathan
she went
heard on the
fishing with
phone,
him just to have a
and the
relationship,
woman
keep
at
the
the casino?
relationship healthy.
They are one and the same.
She was an acquaintance of John who was going to the casino, staying overnight. The man on the site confirmed that she had talked to John, but she was kind of quickly dismissed as being involved.
Investigators have also tracked down that bookkeeper Nathan mentioned. His name is William Sati, and he too is cleared.
He had an alibi that night. It was confirmed. I think he was actually out of the state at the time. I think we found him in Rhode Island.
While cleared as a suspect in the murder, Sati was later convicted of stealing some $400,000 from Chocolose's company.
But that's small change compared to the money the patriarch was handing over to family members every year.
One of the problem children was Linda. Linda was taking John's allowances and going off
That's
on
Nathan's
spending
mother,
sprees
Linda.
at casinos, or going skiing, or taking these lavish trips around the world.
Linda always felt that she deserved more than what she was getting. I don't know why she felt that way. because she and my dad were always butting heads.
Father and daughter also butt heads over the way Nathan is being raised.
The relationship between John and Linda was always volatile, but one day it turned violent. And that was over Nathan's care. Nathan was put into a psychiatric hospital shortly after his horse, Cruz, had died.
Oh, yeah.
And the accusations begin to fly. Linda accuses John of smothering her son with all sorts of bitches, and John is yelling at Linda, saying that she is a bad mother and that Nathan is normal and that Nathan should be treated as such. And at one point, John reaches across the table and grabs Linda by the hair and starts to pull it. So Linda swings and she starts to fight back at her father. And it's a combustible moment that probably lasted a minute plus. And they're swinging at each other, they're fighting each other, and the authorities are summoned as well as the local police. And Linda is arrested right on the spot.
Linda chalks it up as two people cut from the same cloth.
I go back down to my father. Yeah.
And it's just his personality that put that down.
Yeah, and it's not his personality back down either. So if anyone would have fought with him, you know, it would have been me.
Linda has spent many more years fighting to protect her son from those who might treat him unkindly.
I know he led a very lonely life. You know, it was at the age where kids were being invited to birthday parties and, you know, having play dates. And nobody was calling for Nathan to go to the birthday party. And, you know, it was sad, and she hated that for her child. You know, any mother would hate it if her child wasn't included in anything. Yeah, it must have been hard for Linda not being able to fix that. Linda was a fixer. Linda had to fix things, and or at least try to fix things, and she just could not fix that.
Linda and Nathan had a very unique and conflicted relationship. Nathan saw his mother as somebody who was incredibly domineering, and Linda was always trying to get him the therapy that she thought he needed. And I think Nathan wanted to get as far away from his mother as possible because Nathan didn't want to feel different from anybody else.
And with his grandfather, Nathan feels like a success. He learns about business. He's a confidant to John Chocolos, his father.
Looking at his side.
These more aligned with behaviors perhaps of someone who is on the autism spectrum? Or can we look at these for what we normally would kind of think?
What are you doing?
Sketchy, a little suspicious. We want to delve more into this. Involved in that time?
Yes, my grandpa, he facilitated
So for Linda, the recent fishing trips are a way of putting her son back into her life. But now there's the murder of her father to deal with.
So perhaps after.
But this security footage taken outside Nathan's apartment complex shows him leaving at 2:57 a.m. Linda tries calling.
Law enforcement was directed to keep working and try to build a case.
This had to be frustrating.
It just tears at you because you think you've got it. The family had put up a huge billboard on Interstate 91. You know, and coming and going to work every day, I would see that. I would see Mr. Chocolos' face. I would see, reward money for information.
Even though Nathan is under a cloud of suspicion, he's still a free man that feels like he's an outcast in his own community now. So he takes a portion of his inheritance.
His mom, Linda, who has stood by him throughout all the accusations.
And Linda is very excited about that opportunity, but also very concerned because she knows that her son is not an experienced fisherman. Whom in boat, but his mother, who's got no experience with him, and he thinks that he's the master fisherman or the master